Hello everyone. Gran Turismo, in their wisdom, have decided that I should be the host of this third FIA Nations Cup live stream. Although it's not quite live because we need a bit of safety margin. This is pre-recorded, but don't worry, you'll see me in the comments. So we're here in the Nations Cup at Nürburgring, which we'll go into now. But before we do that, let me introduce myself. I'm David Perel, a long time Gran Turismo fan, starting from Gran Turismo 1, and now, these days, a professional racing driver. I race for Ferrari customer teams pretty much around the world, majority in Europe. And I've been a massive Gran Turismo fan my whole life and have actually used Gran Turismo to improve my real-life driving skills. So to be on this channel, to host this with you guys is actually a dream come true. Trust me, 14-year-old Dave is going crazy. And to this day, I still use GT, amongst other sims, but primarily GT for my sort of driving skill practice. And we'll get into why in a second. But anyway, let's get into the race. There's 8 minutes left before this race starts. And we have about 8 minutes of practice. So what I wanted to do quickly before we actually enter the race is give you a quick track guide and also give you an idea of how you can prepare in the best way for these races. So you had Jimmy who instructed you about the interface and how to enter these races in the first viewing of the first episode of the series. And then you had Steve give you a bit more insight into Gran Turismo and how to go quickly. I want to give you some insights into how you can go even quicker and how you can approach this in a more structured and professional way. So Coach Dave, that's what I'm known as on my own YouTube channel. We're going to give you a bit of a rundown on how to get this done properly. Right. So, first of all, if you're like me, you take a lot of notes, and that's what I do. So, in my case, I always first look at the top times from other drivers, and I watch their onboard laps. Steve instructed you how to do that last week, but I'll show you again just in the interface where that is. And while that's happening, I take notes about what gears they're using, etc. So I have my own rule. I don't start studying until I'm within about 1 second. Sorry, when I'm within 2 seconds, I start to study, and then I try to get within a second, and then I stop around there. So within a second of what? The top 10 times. So you'll see here, David Perel, I did a 201.2, and the top 10 times is a 20.5. Okay. In order to get as close as possible, you need to be diligent. If you want to take this to the next level, if you want to get an A+ rating, if you want to get an S sportsmanship ranking, you have to take certain things seriously. So I have some real notes. Now, luckily here, we had a track which I raced at in real life, so I have very good notes for real life. I mean, very good track map. And I basically just write down my gears, and then I write down my strategy. Where is that? There you go. So I know for this race, we have to change tires. I know that the tire wear is 8X, and we're using a soft racing tire, which means it won't last that long. So I know, for example, I've written down pit around box and lap 7. In this case, with this car, I've also written down some reminders about brake balance, because that makes a difference in this car. And then the rest is pretty much up to me. So we have 6 minutes left. I want us to do a quick track guide. Okay, these track guides are kind of what got me into this position in the first place. So anyway, they decided to choose a guy who, by the way, I can't talk and drive fast. I'm not like Jimmy. Jimmy can talk and drive really fast. Steve is also pretty good at it. So during the quali, you may see me go quiet for a little bit, but hopefully I can cover enough ground before then. Let's do some driving. Okay, so we're going to treat the first lap just as a warm-up, nothing serious. And this is a rule that I always like to apply to anyone that I'm coaching, is the out lap, or the first lap, is for getting out onto the racetrack. Now in Gran Turismo, they position you before the start finish so you can get a run. But I like to still treat this first lap as let's just get into the rhythm, let's warm up the body a little bit, let's try and calm our nerves. This is the FIA races, we want to take these relatively seriously. And while this is happening, I'm going to quickly answer 1 or 2 questions. Alright, so from Ashton, TG123, how did you start racing? I started racing when I was 15 years old in karting. I had a really old second-hand kart. I think it cost less than $250 for that kart. That's how broken it was. But I spent about 7 years in karting, way too long. So I got all the way up to the World Championships of Rotax, the Rotax Max Grand Finals, when I was 23, and I finished 6th in that. I probably could have won it, but I threw it away. And I always kind of regretted that. After that, I had 2 races in Formula cars, single-seaters, and then I had to stop because I ran out of money. I was paying for most of this on my own. From the age of 18 to 23, it was all my own money. Because my dad, my parents rather, they said if this is your dream, your passion, you have to go pursue it on your own, and that taught me a lot of life lessons. So anyway, I was forced to stop, still 23 years old, forced to stop, started a business with my brother, and saved as much as I could for as long as I could. From the age of 23 to 30, I lived inside our offices basically, and worked day and night to make the business successful enough that I had enough money to get my foot into the door in GT racing. And then from the age of 30, I cold called GT teams overseas, thinking that I'd saved enough, and got one foot in the door, did one race in Italian GT, and then kind of progressed from there, doing whatever I could to find the money. Because when you're an amateur, no one wants you in their car unless you pay for it, because there's a queue of very, very good pro drivers. So those first 3 or 4 years, I had to find the budget, like insane money, to become a racing driver. And eventually I did. Last year was my first full year as a professional, and during that time, I've been relatively successful. I won the Blancpain Championship in my class in 2017. I've won the Spa 24-hour 2 times as well. So I'm really happy with my CV and all that. But ultimately, my dream is still to get to Le Mans, and I haven't quite got there yet. So that's kind of how I started racing. I got into racing with a very cheap cards, worked crazy hard to stay on the grid, and honestly, around 2 years after I started karting, I was using Gran Turismo to learn racing lines, because at the time I could not get to the racetracks. It was the racetrack, rather. We only had one racetrack in Cape Town, South Africa, which is where I'm from. I live in England, but I was born in South Africa, lived there most of my life. And where I grew up, there was only one karting track. And on top of that, I could never get there. So I used Gran Turismo 2 to learn how to learn racetracks, because we had no variety. And it was already back then that I started to realize the value of using at the time, video game to get faster. And to this day, the main value I find in Gran Turismo these days is, physics-wise, they get the basics right. It understeers when it should, it oversteers when it should, but it's, for me, the racecraft that I've learned through this game is what I still take to real life. So I'll see a move, like a really cool move in Formula 1 or another GT race, and I will then try and replicate that move at a racetrack that is similar in the simulator of choice, Gran Turismo. So tonight I hope that we'll be in the top tier, which is like the top, against the top drivers, and we can put some of that to work. But against the top drivers, I'm usually happy with the top 10 position, and given that I'm also commentating through this race, let's see if that's possible. Okay, let's see how much of this track guide we get through. I was meant to do a full track guide, but we're going to do 1 minute and 30. Heading down the straight, 5th gear, you want to look for the brake markers as the curve starts, okay? Brake very, very hard, down to 2nd gear, turn in early, we're in a Megane. I'll get into the car model in a second. Go to the middle of the track and then just tap the brakes and roll some speed through here as you accelerate out to the edge of the track, not too much further, and then brake and turn early for this downhill hairpin. Okay, this is why you need track maps. You need to realize that that's a hairpin, and then this you can actually almost take flat. Probably in qualifying we'll take a flat. Heading down to the next S-bend, braking just as the exit road ends, down to 4th or 3rd gear. Qualifying I was doing 3rd earlier, doing practice, and then stay in 3rd for this right-hander as you accelerate early. You're going to want to get on the power early there. Get on the power at the apex as hard as you can to accelerate down the hill, and then for this hairpin on the left, there's a bit of green grass there. That's your braking reference area, where you want to take a nice if you can, a tight double apex, which means you apex the first part, go a little bit wide, and then apex the second part. Getting the car nice and pointed straight for the exit up the hill. Easy flat through the S's, and then prepare for this next very important left-right section, which I think is actually, I missed the apex there. You want to get onto that apex curve, and the less time you spend off the power through this sequence here, the faster you're going to be. Okay, it looks like we're going to miss out on the chicane, but in the chicane, you want to brake actually a fraction earlier, because you can straight line it a lot and still get just within the track limits and not get a penalty. So here we use as much curve as we can there, and when you're going really fast, go through there in third gear. In this car, each car is different. And how do you determine which gears to go in? You watch the video of the fastest guys and you make notes. That's how you know. Okay, so let's see what happens here once we join this session. If it's in the top tier, I get super nervous, but I could be in the second tier because I didn't have a good race yesterday. But we got key 25 there, not yesterday. I raced in the rain with the Lexus and I struggled. Okay, we've got key 25 and a couple of others. We'll be able to see if it's top tier given the points that you get for the race. But while we wait for that to load, favorite edition of Gran Turismo is probably Gran Turismo 3 or 4. I love the tracks in both of those. I think 3 had some really, really fun fantasy tracks, and that's my favorite element of this series is the fantasy tracks. I think that whoever designs the fantasy tracks at Gran Turismo, can you please come and design the real tracks in real life. What are the requirements for becoming a racing driver? Insane dedication, the ability to sacrifice everything in your life, pretty much, and a lot of money. And that money has to come from somewhere. It has to come from either, like in my case, I saved up by starting a business, or it could come from parents, could come from sponsors. It has to come from somewhere. The teams will always look to first have a driver with money, and then that driver has to prove that they're good enough to the point where they become a pro racing driver, like myself. I had to find sponsors along the way until teams were willing to pay me enough money to make a living off it. But it wasn't easy. And it's not just about your speed, it's about the professionalism around your speed. Because you'll see here, there's a lot of fast drivers, and probably quite a few of them may even out-qualify me. All right, let's look here. Points table 332. So top tier is about 350, 360. Okay, so let's call this like split 1.5. But when we got Key in here, you should check out his YouTube channel. Really, really good YouTuber. And he's actually where I get most of my strategy stuff from. He spends a lot of time playing this game. What other questions have we got? You go out, by the way, just quickly. It's always recommended to go out in the warm-up, just to get a feeling for the tire and fuel loads, because it makes a big difference. When you're doing practice, there's no fuel load being applied or tire wear. Okay, so your times will be faster in free practice than in this warm-up and qualifying. And now will come the most difficult part of the most difficult part of the FIA races, in my opinion, is getting a good qualifying time. Now, my whole life, this is something I've struggled with, but this is another thing that I've used Gran Turismo for to help me improve my qualifying skills. Because I've realized that I can drive. Most of you will also be able to drive fast. But when you're under pressure, how do you perform? So I use Gran Turismo to help me identify my emotions, really, and how I feel when I'm under pressure. And then can I control those emotions? I hope I'm on the right tire. I forgot to check that. But it's okay, because it's a warm-up lap, and then it's a flying lap. Thoughts on the new Thrustmaster pedals, TLCMs? I've been using them, I helped develop them, and I really, 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 really like them. Okay, so we're on the right tire, so that's good. Favorite corner from any track that I've raced at? Has to be Maggots, Beckett's at Silverstone. And I hope Gran Turismo, please bring back Silverstone. Okay, so now the priority is to burn fuel for 2 minutes, 30 seconds, and then find a good slipstream to do a good lap. Okay, so this is going to be the hard part. You need to find a good enough slipstream so that you don't lose the toe, and where's Key? Key's usually a good guy to follow. So you've got to just kind of sit on the rev limiter basically. Any of the TX3 drivers are very quick. Usually when you see a 3-letter acronym before a username, usually means they come from an esports team. Okay, here's Key. Key is one of the fastest drivers in Gran Turismo. So he's the guy that you want to be with. And he's a master at strategy, master at putting in a quick qualifying lap. And as you can see here, he's accelerating ahead of everyone because he knows exactly what to do. He's well prepared. He's a very, very, very good driver. So it's always good to be behind the good drivers when you do quali. What you don't want to do is you don't want to lead quali because you won't have a slipstream. And the slipstream at the moment is the most important element. It's more important than fuel saving or fuel dumping. Do you have any tips for GT Sport novices? Yeah, so what you see here, these are going to be the tips. Okay, so if you don't mind, just during quali, I will likely go quiet during the quali lap. Why did I choose GT Sports as my go-to sim? That's from SJH3991. You nailed the username there, my man. The reason is pretty simple. It's the one I started with when I was young, and I genuinely think that it's a pretty good. It gives me plenty of satisfaction in terms of simulation, and most importantly, is the online racing. So like you'll see with Key, if I'm able to qualify close to him, do not refuel. You'll see that the racing is really tight and pretty good. Okay, so remember your track notes. Don't forget these for qualifying. This is why you make them. It's for when you're under pressure. Okay, so on the out lap, look after your tires. You want to save the best for the actual quali lap itself. For those of you wondering why I wear gloves, sweaty palms, man. And it was James Baldwin who convinced me to do this. Key's really going for it on this out lap. So let's try and keep quiet and just get back in that slipstream. Still a minute 51 before the checkered flag comes out. And I've moved my brake balance forward because I don't like the oversteer that you get in the car in new tires. But as the race goes on, I move the brake balance backwards. The important thing though is to remember to move it forwards again after the pit stop. And that's why I write it down. Just a little bit of mental affirmation there. Key is very good around here. I'm nervous as hell. It's natural to be nervous, but I think I get more nervous than most people. But in quali, you just want to stick to the basics, remember your reference points as much as possible, and try to avoid making mistakes. While still being in a slipstream, of course. See how this goes. this is not ideal. But let's see, we're in a slipstream. So if we just get into the top 10 in quali, I'll be happy. Target is top 10. The most time that you gain is down the back straight towards the chicane. This is going to be a massive lottery. Going to be a lottery because we're all in the slipstream, all doing very, very good times, sector times. If I go to my car record, half a second off that. Let's see what happens. I think he's going to get this. He's got a nice big toe that's going to pull him all the way up to that guy in front. I have a problem always with that final turn, so I've lost time there. Let's see how it goes. Key on pole. Oh, David third, fourth, fifth, dropping away. P5, 6, oof. Not good. We were just a bit too far behind. When Key moved over, he waited for the traffic to come. He waited for a slipstream like a master. And with that, he managed to get the advantage. Okay, so now to win this, it's going to be tough. But we're going to stay on the soft tire because don't forget, you have to use the medium on this one. You have to check the race details for that. I think I made a note here somewhere. Can't find it. Anyway, what was my time? So, just so you know, I did a practice race before that and 2:01.7 was my best. So, maybe it was better for me not to take a slipstream because it seemed that in this case, the slipstream actually cost me lap time. Sip of water before we get going. We are P7. It's going to be a tough one. Let's see what we can do. We're already in the top 10, so I need to not mess this up. What questions can I answer? How do you keep your lap times consistent? Track notes. Okay, so 3 fundamentals of driving. Step 1, look far ahead. Step 2, that sounds basic, but trust me, the more tense you get, the more tight you get, the more you start to look close towards the car, like what's right in front of it. You don't want to do that. You want to look far ahead. What are you looking for? This is the second thing. You're looking for brake reference points, brake markers, turning reference points, apexes, exit reference points. And as you get to each reference point, you must look immediately to the next one. Don't watch it go by, but spot it from far away and then spot the next one like that. So your eye is looking always at the next reference point. There's a common misperception that racing drivers have abnormally fast reaction times. That's not really the case. It's actually usually we're better at anticipating things because we can see them coming towards us, and that's a big difference. All right. And number 3, don't get on the power before you've rotated the car or before the apex effectively. So when you go into a corner, you're going to have maximum steering applied just before the apex. You want to avoid getting on the power when you still have maximum steering. And the last thing, the way to problem solve your driving is to always look at the exit and work your way backwards from there. So what happened on the exit? Did you slide on the exit, like snap oversteer? Or did you understeer off the track? Okay, then work your way backwards. Did you understeer off the track because you got on the power too early? And did you get on the power too early because you braked too early? And did you brake too early because you didn't have a reference point and you were just driving off instinct? Reference points can look like anything. They can look like brake boards, they can look like curbing, any marking on the track which doesn't move, like don't use a shadow, don't use marshals, use things that don't move as your reference points for being consistent. Then when you are in the race, you'll always know, okay, if I brake at 110 meters, I will always make the apex, I will always be able to get on the power at and after the apex. So that's very important. Also, to be consistent, you need to literally just calm it down. If every lap you're trying to do pole position, you will never ever be consistent. Always set like a window. If you're capable of doing a 201, try and do 203s 10 times in a row. Just 2 seconds off the pace, 10 times in a row. See how difficult that is. And you'll slowly from there start to build up very good habits around your driving. But if every single lap you try to do a 201, you're going to practice failing because you won't be able to do your best lap every lap. That's very important to notice. Okay, I should run a little bit of fuel burning, but it's not that important. Let's see how we progress in this race. Pier 1 Magnus is Manu Gas. Oh, it's Manu. I think it's Manu. He's very quick. And so is Key. And I think they're going to pull away. So let's try and get into the top 3. Let's see what we can do. Okay, so I'm going to turn up my engine volume a bit on my side. What they're doing here is they're just warming up the tires, because when you get to turn 1, it's going to be a bit slidey. Okay. I use this bumper cam because I get the rearview mirror and it's easier to see what's coming, rammers and all that stuff. I don't use the radar because the radar doesn't exist in real life. So you want to avoid that. Okay. Let's go. It's interesting that Key chose to lead out the gate. It's probably because there's a gaggle of cars. Okay, on the right, that's a problem. That could lead to problems. Try carry the speed and be patient. It's a long race. Longish. 10 laps. Okay. Seems like they slowed each other down there a little bit. But I don't want to overtake until turn 1. Let's see, because ideally you want to actually get to that front gaggle. No, I'm not going to overtake. We're still there. The front guys are fighting too much, but that may be a benefit to us because we started too far back to maybe aim for a win. But maybe we can still do something, provided we have the pace. Obviously, we can't lose the slipstream. Maybe it would have been better to overtake this guy. But you have to do it in a way where you don't lose the slipstream of the guys in front. driving is racing. We're still within that 1 second. You need a 1 second window to be in the slipstream, so let's push. I was aggressive there, but I am an aggressive sim driver. I make no apologies for that most of the time. Let's try and catch them. Let's try and catch them. Don't forget also we have to consider pit stops and stuff. Okay, so we're still going to stay on the front brake balance because the car is still handling well. It's when it starts to understeer, that we want to move it just slightly rear to help with the front tire wear. Come on, podium is in sight. We just need to stay within this window. Too much understeer from the driver. Oh no, that's what you want to avoid. Is those little penalties. I went off track there. Not ideal. But I still think we can get on the podium. Eternally optimistic, I suppose. Okay, so the closer we can serve this penalty to them, the better. The more chance we have. I forgot what car this is. I hope you guys saw that in the stream. David Perel, fastest lap. Bit late, mate. A bit late. Time to go rear. We're still in that all-important slipstream. All is not lost, it's just become a bit more difficult. Luckily, fuel consumption is not an issue. Come on, let's try to get in the podium in this split. Will be not so bad. Pitting around the end of lap 7 or lap 6. Around lap 6 you can get an undercut. That doesn't look good. Didn't mean to do that, but pushing. Heart rate goes up a bit. Why am I on the fuel thing? Okay, so now strategically, do you want to overtake this guy or do you want to push him to the front? I didn't want him to defend. So now, if we defend too much, if we fight too much, then the race is over. The win is probably already too far to reach because we're 2 seconds away. So I think this is becoming a three-way fight for the podium. Okay, I think we will pit on the next lap. That guy there is going for the undercut. I think this guy in fourth must... Okay, so he wants to fight for third. And I wanted to go for the lead, but that's alright. This is what you learn in sim racing. It can happen in real racing as well, where this guy's defending too much. We're gonna get done by the undercut, buddy. He's playing the wrong game here. But anyway, after the pit stops, we're still gonna get another tow for that top 3 fight. Flashing him to say go, 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 go. Oh my gosh. Still wants to fight for this position, but now we're going to the chicane. Okay, he is wiser. So Rasmus, Manu is under threat. Do not refuel. Manu is under threat because we could still achieve an undercut. An undercut means that his tires are degrading, his lap times are getting slower, and when we go out in a fresh set of mediums, maybe we can go a bit quicker. Did I put on mediums? Yes. Okay. Look at the strength of that undercut from the people who did pit before us. Whoa, whoa, whoa! Too aggressive. Why did he send it like that? Gotta return the favor sometimes. Woo! It's getting aggressive. We went from fighting for the podium to fighting for 6th place. Now we have to work very hard to catch the guys in front. Let's see what happens. their tires are older than ours, and they're mediums, which when they degrade, they do lose a lot of time. Okay, we did catch him a little bit there though. So we just have to work really hard now. Remember, always try to remain calm, try to spot your reference points. To avoid making mistakes like I did when I ran wide and got that little half-second penalty. That's probably what cost me this podium. It's not Stelios in front. Oh, the boys are fighting up in front. A little side tap gives you a 1 second penalty, which you want to avoid. And it's going 3 ways there. But I need to stay focused on what I'm doing instead of commentating, because that's my podium opportunity. Full focus. Minimize distance covered on the inside here. And try our best to get back in that slipstream with 2 laps to go. Almost there, almost there. Went slightly front on the brake balance. To avoid any snapping on the entry with these tires. Okay, 2 laps to go. Almost in the slipstream and almost in the fight for the top 3. Remember, that was target. We started with the target of a top 10, but we already qualified there, so now we've always got to push forward. Okay, let's watch these guys carefully, because it could open up an opportunity. We need a mistake from them to get from 6th to 3rd. There's the first one. It brings us closer. We're going to need a big fight from these 2 guys in front of us to bring this back. They're defending a lot. Oh, this last lap's going to be tense. He's doing a great job out in front. I'm surprised Magnus hasn't actually gone for a move. Manu Gas. They They weave like that to cut the slipstream, for those of you wondering. But this is a problem. Cap to P5. We're going to need what we call a miracle slipstream. All the way from here to the chicane is basically a slipstream. I'm just too far to make magic happen. So we went from fighting for a definite podium, I stayed out one lap too long, to this, where we actually now, we're just out of reach. I probably strategically got too much caught up in the actual battle with Stylos. So that was a shame. That was my own fault. I probably should have pitted on lap 5 like BFR. Just miss out on the podium. Last lap, last corner move, aggressive race. Not the result we're looking for, but still a fun race, I think. Still a fun race. Lots of variables going on there. So what did we learn? Bigger picture. I got caught up in racing with Stelios, the McLaren colored Megane, and as a result of being caught up in that fight, I missed a trick on trying to do an undercut, which BFR successfully did. And if I did that undercut, I maybe could have caught Key, who I think won the race, because they were battling so much in those 2 or 3 laps. I could have had an advantage where I could have just been on my own, push in the slipstream of the back markers. But anyway, 4th, top 1.5 split, so not the top split, but decent quali, which was blocked by the slipstreams and stuff. I think overall not so bad, and I hope you guys found some value in that one. So let's see here. Well done, Key. Check out his channel. And also Manugas. See, Stylos, he apologized, so it's no problem, mate. This is just racing. I need everyone to realize that we're just doing a bit of racing here. This is for fun. So when you get boxed around a little bit, don't take it personally. Do whatever you can to avoid that personal sort of anguish and anger. Because, guys, it's not the end of the world, honestly. There's going to be another go. Unlike in real racing, if the guy takes you out, that's it. Game over. So I may still give this race another shot later. But for now, let's quickly cover some more questions. Okay, I use yellow gloves in real life. That's my thing. Because I'm a massive Valentino Rossi fan. Okay, let's take a look here. So best wheel for beginners. It has to be probably actually the Thrustmaster TGT is my favorite wheel that I use for PlayStation. So this, and if you have the budget, TLC and pedals. So yeah, it's not the cheapest, but it's probably one of the best. Okay, does GD Sport help improve your skills in real life? Yes, it does. A lot of people think I bring my real life racing experience to sim racing, but it's actually the other way around. My racecraft is developed in the sim, and my driving skill is developed in real life. What got you into sim racing? Gran Turismo. I bought it, I played it on a remote PlayStation, Gran Turismo 1, yeah, on PlayStation 1. My brother used to kart with me. He had the wisdom to to call time on his racing and use his money for other things, the money he was making from working. But yeah, we played Gran Turismo non-stop. We'd do all the endurance races. He was the kind of guy who'd finish the game, though. I didn't care about finishing the game. I just wanted to be the best. So I even made a website where you could log your fastest laps. So I could, because I wanted to see in Gran Turismo 4 if anyone else was quicker than me. So I made a website just for that. And that's actually what we did. That was our business. Our business was to make websites after I stopped racing the first time. Most fascinating moment while playing Gran Turismo. I think the biggest thing about Gran Turismo that I like is seeing how many of the top drivers from Gran Turismo have become real racing drivers. And especially factory drivers. You know, you still got Jan Mardenborough, who's a factory Nissan driver, and Lucas Ordóñez. He's still racing at VLN. I consider myself a Gran Turismo graduate. Okay, I didn't go through the academy, but this is what I used, and I'm a professional driver these days as well. Yeah, so that looks like that's all we've got for today, gents and ladies who are watching. So thank you so much for tuning in. Next week's guest is going to be a surprise, so we're not going to tell you that one yet. But also, if you have free time, check out the last two episodes. The first one with Jimmy Broadbent, he showed you around the interface, and Steve Alvarez Brown, also known as Super GT. And if you want to catch more of David Perel, Coach Dave, you can check out my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/David Perel, one word. I do a lot of Gran Turismo track guides, I do a lot of race reports, and yeah, my focus is on how can I bring the real world experience to you guys, Gran Turismo fans. How can you up your game with the stuff that I'm coaching? Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that little race. I hope you found it useful. Little bit of, take a look if you can at how I drove around the track, and especially towards the end, okay, except for that one nudge, how we're able to stay close with the racing and not send someone off into the shadow realm. That's very important, because as you're climbing up through the lower rankings, you want to avoid ramming people and being rammed. And I hope that there were some lessons in there. Anyway, if you did tonight's FIA race, I hope you did well. For those of you doing the final round of it tonight, what time slots have we got here? Let's just quickly see. Okay, all the way till 10:20 UK time, which is 11:20 EU time. So use my race as a reference. Don't forget that you could maybe put on lap 5 to get an undercut if you're in a big group. And yeah, have fun. Don't take it too seriously. Enjoy yourself. And until the next one, we will catch you around the next lap. Peace.